Welcome to the Riverside Project podcast. We are mobilizing Houston to empower families and transform generations. We hope these conversations will give you a greater understanding of the issues facing our community and inspire you to find your place along the river. Today we have Brandon Denton. He is the executive director of the Houston chapter of a national nonprofit organization called Friends of the Children. Prior to working with Friends of the Children, he spent 7 years as a public administrator in various roles and in multiple departments within the city of Houston. Most recently, Brandon served as the director of My Brother's Keeper Houston, a backbone initiative founded by President Barack Obama to address persistent opportunity gaps facing boys and young men of color. Brandon is also a certified leadership coach, a trainer, and a speaker, and he has a passion to improve the lives of youth and young adults by providing them with access to opportunity, encouragement, and possibilities for positive life outcomes. Brandon, you have an impressive resume. So many experiences, and so much passion. And I'm really glad that you're here with us to share a little bit about the work that you're doing.
Thank you for having me. This is a blessing and an honor. God is good to me.
Yeah.
All these experiences were assignments, I'd say. I call them assignments.
That's good.
So in that sense, I'm just happy to be in the game and have a purpose.
Yeah.
So thank you for allowing me to share that with you all as well.
Of course. It's our pleasure. Share a little bit more about you and just how you found yourself in this role with Friends of the Children and just kind of what that organization does.
Absolutely. Well, I always start with I'm just a little country boy from a small town named Spencer, Oklahoma, a town of about 4,000 people. So I've been in Houston almost 14 years. Right. So small town to big town has been a great experience for me, but the likeness of both big town and small town are about the same. So I fit right in. I'm from Oklahoma, and it's a small city and state. So coming here, I know there's a running joke in Houston that says everybody got here as fast as they can. So I'm an implant, but I'm waiting the day where I've been here longer than I have been in Oklahoma, so I can be a Texan.
A real Texan.
I'm an Okie. I don't know if that will resonate with everybody back home that I said I want to be in Texas, but I love it here. And so has been the work and the mission that I've been a part of since I've gotten here. You said it in the resume. Baseball is what brought me here.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. Baseball saved my life. Baseball has been a major reason why I'm here and I am who I am.
Tell me more about that.
So got here in 2010.
Okay.
I went to college in a small town called Claremore, Oklahoma, but the school was Rogers State University, and I played baseball there. I was a Major League Baseball prospect. And so out of college, I played a little independent ball in Joliet, Illinois, but left that 'cause I got cut. I didn't make it to the big leagues from there, but I wanted to stay in the game because I always understood as a baseball player the influence I would have or could use to make a difference in the community. And so working in Memphis, I worked for the Redbirds and did community relations and youth development work with the team, which was a nonprofit baseball team, helping programs get back into the school, sports programs specifically, get back in the education system. After that, came to Houston, and I worked for the Houston Astros and helped build that Urban Youth Academy on the north side.
Very cool. Moving
from there to public administration and got into service, working for the mayor of the city of Houston. This is the fourth largest city, so that was a very remarkable experience for me in itself, seeing how city works and how communities come together in that way, and how the city is kind of that convener and service provider for everybody. But in my last role is My Brother's Keeper, which is an initiative founded by President Barack Obama, now led by the Obama Foundation. The major focus of that was mentorship, right? And so I would come into the program to kind of revitalize it and get it back in order after the pandemic. And mentorship was a focus. And here comes this organization named Friends of the Children, who I had never heard of before, right? I'm doing the Barack Obama initiative, supporting boys and young men of color, making sure they're entering school ready to learn, graduating high school ready for post-secondary, avoiding criminal justice system, all good work. And then I hear about this organization. And so they came into town looking to be connected with just other partners, Brandon, and asked, could I help? And of course, I did my service and got them plugged in, and they came back a couple of months later saying we're going to launch. We're working with this young lady named Simone Biles. I was like, oh yeah, who is that?
Yeah.
Right?
Who's that, right?
Who is Simone? But I said, that's interesting, right? Coming from working with the mayor, working for an initiative that was led by President Barack Obama. I love the fact that athletes and public figures who use their influence in the right way to make change is actually taking place. I can get behind that and get along with that every time. Obviously,
Absolutely.
I've done that in my career. And so they said, we're looking for an executive director. Do you know anybody? I said, well, because I had no intention of doing anything else. I was really settled into my position as director of My Brother's Keeper. And so I said, tell me a little bit about it so then I can start thinking about those people. And they started telling me a lot about it. And as I took my notes, I started to think about that person, who that would be. And that person was me in my mind, right? And so I raised my hand and they said, do you know anybody? I raised my hand and I went through the process of joining the team. I knew I could come in and, build an organization from the ground up. And I'll tell you a little bit more about that specific work, but knowing I can come in and build teams and build infrastructure and introduce something new to Houston and a model that's new to this region in itself was a great opportunity that I could not afford to turn down. And so God has led me here, and here I am. I am the founding executive director. So I'm building something for the Houston community.
Yeah. Tell me about what Friends of the Children does, just in kind of the day-to-day work and the people the kids that you serve. I definitely want to get back to the athletic aspect of it, because I think that's really important as well. But tell me first what Friends of the Children does.
Friends of the Children in itself is a remarkable organization. I can do nothing but sing praises to Duncan Campbell, the founder of the organization, who in his own experiences as a child, in neglect and in poverty, found his way to a significant amount of influence where he can give back, and created this organization to work with foster children or children that are just experiencing some of the most traumatic and traumatic experiences and obstacles in their lives. We do that through relationship building, and our focus is mainly breaking cycles of generational poverty in children through relationship building. So we have mentors on our team. We call them friends. So we actually have people who have a job and a career being a friend working with children, and these children are at risk of entering foster care the system or are already in that system. It's one-to-one relationships with the paid professional mentor that works with them from 12 plus years, no matter what. So from the time a child enters school, they have someone holding their hand, walking alongside them, helping them and their families as well, develop and grow into productive citizens. And we'll be with them until they graduate high school, and some in cases beyond. So the organization and the network has been around for 30 years. Houston is the 30th chapter. We launched here in Houston because of a person named Simone Biles that I keep mentioning, who is one of the greatest Olympians and gymnasts of all time, who also resides in the Houston area. Simone Biles worked with Friends of the Children a few years ago, and over the last couple of years significantly, and said, I love this so much. How can we get this in Houston? I was a foster child. I spent time at the Pelchin Children's Center receiving counseling, and I had an experience that I knew when I received a new family, when I received a unit and a community of people, has helped me grow into the woman and the athlete and the person of influence that I am today. She's, how can we get this to Houston? And so here it is. Simone Biles is our ambassador nationally, but also resides here in Houston. So it's been a great journey. We've just been building this chapter up from the last year. We are in a great position where we have all of our staff, all of our team members, and all of our children enrolled for this first cohort. So 2024 is exciting, and we're serving here in Houston. We're partnering with the likes of the Pelchin Centers, the school districts, Riverside Project, and others, to name a few.
I want to go back to something you said about breaking cycles of generational poverty. We talk about, with the idea of the river and the analogy of the river, that foster care is not one isolated problem. It's actually very closely connected to many of the other social issues that affect our city. Absolutely. One of them upstream being poverty. We often talk about these as isolated things. So we talk about foster care, we talk about poverty, but we don't often talk about the connection between them. And I think, and same thing for trafficking, same thing for incarceration. We talk about those specific issues, but we don't often really dive into where that connection happens.
Understood.
Can you tell me a little bit just about, in your work with Friends of the Children, how you've seen that, or what you've noticed about that connection, and how closely connected poverty and foster care really are?
Yeah, I would just say even the role as Friends of the Children in the model itself, I think we act as a bridge for some of that, right? We are not a system or the foster system, but we support and complement that system, especially when in foster care, when you have people or individuals coming in and out of a child's life for a long period of time. We will be that one face that they can see no matter what. So if there's a case manager in the house from the foster care system, we're there helping and supporting that. If it's a family member, we're that. So we are kind of that bridge and that connection between these systems, because all of us have to work together, right? It is a community aspect. We even have, as a part of our model, a 2-gen model. So by way of the child, we realize what's happening in the house, and then we can provide the family more supports based on their needs so that they can reinforce that child's too. And so, the foster care system, the child welfare system, in my opinion, is necessary, but there has to be other components like nonprofits like ours and models like ours that come alongside and support them as well. So we're just a bridge and a connection between all of this home, their school, and the community, and we sit right there in the middle of all of them.
And being able to recognize the challenges, like you said, that those family units face, that the kid is facing, but also that the entire family is facing. You talk about, and really everything that Friends of the Children is about is relationships. That is a theme on our podcast, because it seems like every resource that we bring on, every conversation that we have, when we talk about healing from trauma, everything comes down to building safe and stable, loving relationships. That's and the power of healing that comes through those relationships. Tell me why relationships are so key and such an integral part of y'all's model.
There's a mentor of mine, John Maxwell, who always says, people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care, right? You can be the best advocate for a child, and you can meet that child, and if they don't know you, then they're not going to give themselves to you. They're not going to trust you. It's about know, liking, and trust. If someone likes you and can trust you, then you can pour into them what it is that they feel like they need. And so relationships are key. As a mentor, we're walking into homes and families are saying, who are you? Right? They don't know who we are. And so we spend time for weeks upon months, if we need to, making sure we build rapport that these families can trust us. I'll tell you a story most recently about the power of trust, right? Our program director sits on everybody's couch, right? She is responsible for going into homes and telling people about the program, meeting kids and families. So she goes into a home just in the last week of a parent who needed some help, right? We're going through enrollment. We're talking about how to be a part of the program, and she's filling out paperwork, and my program director takes the paperwork and realizes how many misspelled words are on the paper or how much information is filled out incorrectly. And so I would assume embarrassed the parent was, asked my program director, can she sit next to her on the couch? And she admitted to her, I don't know how to read that well. She was incarcerated for a very long time. She lacks some skills. And so that's concerning for us as an organization because, but it's also promising for us, right? We know we're in the right place, helping the right family. And so that child who may not have all the reinforcements that we need them to have, we can then help the mother. But the mother was trusting enough to say to that person, that our program director, I don't know how to read. And that's alarming. And so whatever our program director did to help build that relationship, I think that's what opened up the door for us to be able to come into that home and remain in that home. With the child, there are behaviors that everybody witnesses a child may be experiencing, or the lack thereof in terms of their academic success. But none of it has to do with the child not being smart. It has nothing to do with a lot of times intellectual disabilities or any of that. It's the fact that they don't have people in their lives that they believe care enough, and so they act out, or they don't want to come to school, or they throw temper tantrums. And behavior is one of the challenges that rise to the top. And there's so many underlying things, but that is the importance of relationships, and it's better done one-to-one. That way we can give these children the individualized attention that they need so they can learn to trust us, so we can help them grow and develop. And it's the same thing with the family, but it's also the same thing in the community. Without relationships with Riverside, without relationships with partners in the private and public sector, how can we effectively make this impact and support these families and children? So relationships are key.
Absolutely. I think what you were saying too on just the families and the needs that those families have, and which then trickles down to the needs that the kids have.
Absolutely.
So many of those things, like illiteracy, language barriers. We sometimes within this kind of system, we assume when a family goes to court that they understand what's being said. We assume when we hand them a paper at a pediatrician's office that they can read the instructions for how to care for their kid. Right. There are some assumptions there, and there's a lot of shame on the other side of that, and not wanting to say, I actually cannot read this, or I don't understand, or I don't know how to take care of my child in this way. I need help, essentially, is what they're trying to communicate. And the curiosity and the time that's spent building those relationships starts to disarm a lot of those the fears and the shame that come with that. And so, but it does, it takes a lot from us or organizations to build that type of trust. It doesn't just happen overnight.
And we're a long-term. We're committed for the long haul. I'll say 12 plus years, no matter what.
Yeah.
So it
have to be.
If it takes 12 years to see impact, if it takes 12 years to actually build a strong relationship with it, we're here. Right? We just want to make sure that the families and children that we serve know we are committed for the long haul. And no matter what is our slogan. Our motto is no matter what it takes, we'll be able to be there and bring out that promise and bring out that potential in that family.
Yeah. You guys provide those relationships through mentorship. What other, you mentioned a little bit about this, but what other resources do you typically identify certain problems and then make connections, or how does, what else do you guys do along with that mentorship component?
Through discovery, as we meet these children and families, we do discover more needs. Every child that is referred to us, because we work basically or mainly off referrals from partner organizations, going back to relationship building. We have profiles on these children, so we know if the child is in CPS care or in a foster home, we know exactly what happened. And so if the case manager hasn't already connected that family with resources, we then step in. Some families have a history of incarceration or incarcerated parents. Some of the parents don't have jobs and don't work. So there's a bookend. I'll go back. There's a part of the program where we work with at-risk children who are in danger of entering the system, and those that are already in the system, providing interventions. So for those that we aren't in, we're going to try to reinforce that family with supports. We've had calls for people or families who need groceries, gas cards, light bills need to be paid and the like. So as we discover that, we do then go partner with agencies that can help supply that need. So those are the Catholic Charities, the United Ways. Those are, the Goodwill organization. That is Workforce Solution. And you can go as extreme as sexual abuse, mental health abuse. So the Mental Health of America, Houston, the Harris Center for Mental Health and IDD, and then the Children's Assessment Center for Harris County Resources for Children and Adults. We can throw out all the partners we've already established, but that is the community that we have established, so we can make sure that these families have what they need. And
I love that. Every time a new organization like this steps into this kind of system and this community of different responders, it brings to life that idea of all of these different organizations that are doing different things along the river, and we're all kind of linking arms in different ways, right? We all kind of see the family. I think that there's always this idea that, or there has been in the past, this like territorialism of like, these are our kids, this is our job, this is our role, this is our money, this is our funding.
It's
but
collective impact.
It's starting to dispel that, I think. We're able to kind of link arms and say, hey, we're all responsible for all of the kids and families.
I need you.
And
you need me.
We can do it.
We're all part of the same body. This is the ecosystem. That's one thing I learned by working at the city and then being the convenience that public-private partnerships are necessary. The government doesn't have all it needs. Nonprofits are struggling to survive. The corporations need to know how to connect with the community with all the influence and power that they have to make things move and make that needle move. So it does take everybody. It is a collective impact model. The river versus the reservoir, right? Being a constant flow of allowing allowing things and blessings and resources to pour through you, right? Reservoir stands still. It don't be a reservoir, right? You want to be a river. I just always believe God won't give to you what he doesn't believe will flow through you. And so when you are able to communicate to organizations, hey, we have a need, or you have a need, how can we reciprocate? How can we work together to make things happen? It's just lifts the load off of everybody, right? Yeah. And at any point, Friends of the Children, Houston serves as that tide that lifts those boats. Great. If we can ride the wave, even better. But we are all part of the same thing. And so there's no ego here with Friends of the Children. We are friends. And anybody who wants to be a friend of Friends of the Children, we welcome them in for support. Yeah.
We all get to do the work together, and then we all get to celebrate together. That's kind of our posture in it, is that like, hey, I don't care who meets that need, but we're going to celebrate the need getting met. And so if a family is more stable on the side of the river, and we all got to have a little bit of a hand in that, or support one another in their work in that, then we all get to celebrate that our city is safer, and our city is stronger, and the people in it are thriving.
And that's the spirit of Houston.
Yeah, that's Houston. That's what we want Houston to be about. And I think that's really what we are about. Speaking of that, what are some stories of hope and healing that you've already seen? You mentioned already the story of building trust. Is there another story that you kind of think of? I know you guys are just getting started here in Houston, so it doesn't have to be a Houston story necessarily, but where have you seen hope and healing already taking place through the work that you guys are doing?
Yeah, I think we've already had some successes. There's a young kid, let's just name him Jonathan, right? He had a lot of office referrals. He's a young kid, and we're talking 4, 5, and 6 year olds. We start at 4, 5, and 6. We're early intervention and prevention within our work. So Braylon had been not my coach, Braylon, but Braylon been working with Jonathan, and all these issues at school. And within 2 weeks of our mentor and our friend working with them, it's made a difference, so much so. Last week, our friend went to the school, and little Jonathan was in the office during the visit. We didn't even know. It was just a pop-up opportunity, but it was perfect because he had been having challenges. Typically, the principal would say, this is always Jonathan. After he comes back from breaks, off the chain. And just behavior.
Transition, out of control.
I got to get it back in. And our friend was there. And when they made the announcement that our friend Braylon was there, they came out of the hallway and excited because he'd been asking for him for weeks or days now since the last visit, and that's changing, and so much so now that the behavior is changing. It's small and it may seem insignificant, but it does matter. Going in that home, people that are visiting that same child, that same mentor, asking, who are you? And they're stepping up to the plate, right? And because they see that there is also somebody in here consistently doing that work. So it's not just for the child, but the family is seeing that that friend is in their home, and everybody's kind of stepping up their game. So I think that matters. Then going back to the story about the parent who cannot read, right? Another partner that we'll be working with is the library system and adult literacy. Mayor's Office of Adult Literacy is another connection that we'll look into to be able to help support those families, to know that that is a problem that actually exists, and know that there is a resource for it. Now the friend can make that connection and give them access to that. So there's a lot of hope and healing we're looking forward to. There are children within our program who have had some very traumatic experiences. And I don't look at our organization and the challenges we experience like typical, nonprofit organizations would experience, but I'm looking forward to that challenge. I gotta help that family solve, right? Mother hasn't been working for months. How can I help her get back on her feet? They haven't had lights on or gas or water for so many times. This is why, let me start with those too. Let me tackle those challenges as well. That way we can have a better opportunity for success with that child. If that makes sense.
Getting to the root of it. It's getting to some of the roots of it. The behaviors, the struggles, the neglect, it doesn't typically just happen as an isolated thing. There are reasons for it. And if we can tackle those things too, instead of putting Band-Aids.
And we want to bring that hope. So there's opportunities for hope and healing, but we want to be hope dealers, right? We will be the hope dealers for these families.
100%. What have you learned so far? What have you learned in being in this new nonprofit role? I mean, government, a totally different thing, right? What are a couple of things you've learned just by being in this space?
Yeah, I've been in all three sectors. I've been in government, nonprofit, I've been in corporate. I understand now how all of them work differently, and I know how all of them work together, and the necessity that comes for all of those if we're really going to make a impact and be effective in communities, especially those that are under-resourced and underserved. I'll say working at the city, I'll just give you kind of all three experiences if that helps. The government experience, if I didn't work in the government, I wouldn't even know in living and being a part of a community, some of the services that even exist. I've learned who I can call to get speed bumps installed on my street, or I know I can call Centerpoint to have a light bulb replaced because the streets are too dark, which will lead to more crime, right? Those experiences help me be a better member, a contributing member to my community in that space. Corporate, I know that there's a lot of resources and opportunity there that can't trickle down, and we need that influence there. For the nonprofit sector, I've been in this space, but not to this extent. I've almost seen the gamut when it comes to child development. I've been on the side of early childhood development, reading and literacy, making sure that children can read by third grade at an efficient level. I've done the workforce part, right? Seeing how education and workforce go together to create economic development, and then the criminal justice system. Right. The only place in space I had not tapped into was foster care and the child welfare system.
Whole different beast.
Yeah, and it is a machine in itself. And I'm still, probably will always be learning how that works. But I do know that within this work, there is a space and place for everybody. There is a need for that can be solved and should be solved. And we have a specific space at Friends of the Children. Again, we're mentorship, we're relationship building, we're wraparound, right? So that I do love, that I don't have to be severely impacted by a system like the child welfare system in itself, but I can't be a part of it. I don't have to be a part of the bureaucracy that is government, but I can be a part of it. I don't have to be in the rigor that is corporate America, but I can be a part of it. And I can call all these people together and say, hey, Houston, we have a problem. Harris County, we have a problem. State of Texas, we have a problem. And how can we solve this problem together? And so I like being in this space and where I sit, because it just broadens my perspective and the lens on how all things work. And I'm also in a place with an organization, Friends of the Children Houston, where we can go deep in our work with these families. I'm used to having to go get the mayor's 25,000 jobs. I'm used to being in MBK serving 5,000, 10,000 kids, where in our cohorts, we're going to start small. We're going to have 24 children. We're going to work with 24 families, their brothers and sisters, and start there and make sure we go deep instead of wide. That opportunity I love. And I think the focus in nonprofit and this welfare system is specifically calls for that.
When you say start small with 24, if that's 24 lives changed, like if that's 24 generations that are impacted, or 24 households, you know, that's life changing, you know, and I'm very much a proponent of start small, get wins, figure it out. And 24 is not small when it comes to kids that have been impacted by this system. And I like also that you were able to think about where you are situated, what you can and can't do. I think for any of us or any people that are listening, one of our big calls to them is, what can you do? We don't expect every person to be a foster parent. Not everyone can or should be a foster parent. Not everyone should be a caseworker. If you want to work in the foster care space and make an impact, you don't have to be a caseworker or a foster parent. Those are the only two things. You can say, where am I situated? I'm a stay-at-home parent. I can mentor. I can babysit. I can take a meal. I can go to court with a family. Just be a support or a relationship, and you have impacted this river. I think the way that you said that really eloquently is like, I have these experiences and I can see how they fit together. But what I can do is this, and what I can't do is this. And so I'm just going to do what I can.
I'm just going to do my part.
And I'm just going to do what I can do.
And that's what I tell everybody. I'll just have a part. I have a role to play. I want to be a star player in my role. I don't want to go and swerve in everybody's lane that I don't know anything about. But I am receptive to being taught.
Yeah.
And I have something to offer, and I want
Yeah.
those things to come together at the same place. So, yeah, partnerships matter, relationships matter, being in this space with like-minded people. That's what I can say. And in addition to seeing what you just said about all the roles that it would take to keep that type of system running in itself, the fact that there are, the other partners, the other nonprofit, there's the families, the parents that are shareholders in this work too, that we want to bring in. I love working alongside everybody, but just playing my small part.
Team effort.
That's it.
One of the things too that I think is worth mentioning about Friends of the Children is that when kids are enrolled into this program, it's 4 to 6. You mentioned it briefly, but they enroll at 4 to 6 and then they continue on. They don't enroll at 7 or 12, correct? You enroll them early when they're younger. And some might look at that and say, well, you're limiting. You could open it up to a kid could step in as a foster youth, or a kid could step in at 10. But you're saying this is our lane and this is what works best for this program. There are resources for the kid who steps into foster care at 18 or 16 or 15. And there need to be more, but we're working on that, right? But for you to say, this is where you enroll and this is when a kid gets connected to a friend and then they follow them. What was the thinking behind that? And what have you seen that just works about that type of program?
Yeah, early intervention. The more exposure, more resources you can pump into a family household early, the better, right? The better their outcomes will be. For a lot of folks, we can take a 7, 8-year-old where it's just been discovered possibly that child has some challenges or issues, right? Well, if we get them earlier than 8, 9 years old, we can alleviate some of those challenges or experiences that they have. So we want to start from the time we can build influence, from the time they get into the schools and start learning social skills and learning how to read and how to advocate we want to be right there. We don't want to come in later when it's already a lot of programming already being done and some tampering with the foundation. We want to come in when the foundation is being set and be a part of that foundation and build on top of that for the long term and for the long haul. That's why we start there. And on top of that, we give individual one-to-one mentorship, but we operate in cohorts. So even on one Saturday out of the month, all the friends and all the kids get together. We may go to an Astros game or Rockets game or go to the park and have a picnic. And so we build a sense of community even within those age groups. So you don't want a 7, 8, 9, 10-year-old mingling with the 4 to 5, 6, because the influences are different. So start early intervention, help build a foundation with children, help build a relationship from the get-go that will last for the long term, so that the challenges that those 7, 8, 10, and 18-year-olds are facing on the backside aren't as extreme because they have someone holding their hand, if that makes sense. And we go into homes and we may be working with a 4, 5, or 6-year-old. The average household is 4 to 5 people. And so there may be a teenage brother or sister or younger, older sibling. And again, going back to relationships and partnerships, that's why big brothers, big sisters exist. That's why Boys and Girls Club and Hayes Center in Harris County, all those resources are already in place. We just create a pipeline to these programs and let them be a supplement, and everybody still do their part.
Yep. Absolutely. Told you we were going to circle back to athletics. I love that you were a baseball player. All 4 of my kids, I have 1 daughter in softball and 3 in baseball. So it is busy. Very good. Very, very busy. Awesome. And my kids would want to know all the things about your experiences. So that's for another time. But yeah, I love that Simone Biles has been connected to the organization. Is there an influence with athletics in Friends of the Children in terms of getting kids into youth sports? And kind of how have you seen that in your own experience being influential in how you developed?
Absolutely. Sports is always my go-to. I believe sports is the great influencer. I believe Jesus is the great influencer. I put that out there as well. But sports has a way of unifying people too. And there are, athletes and people of influence that use that to help. And so I always will find a way to incorporate sports into it because it's helped build teams. It helps build character. I come from baseball where I could fail 7 out of 10 times and still go to the Hall of Fame, right? So teaching those life lessons through sports and through those games, I think are crucial in the child's whole development. It could be chess, right? It can be baseball, whatever. I know what it did for me, and I want to make sure that still exists in the organization that I lead. So youth sports will be a part of it. We'll tap into my former Astros relationships at the Urban Youth Academy, where that's worth it, and for other sports, because this is a city of sports. We have every major league sport venue and team that has a professional association tied to
Sure.
it. So yes, we're going to tap into
great.
sports because it has the power to change lives. Michael Jordan is a supporter of Friends of the Children National. We know who Michael Jordan is. He's donated a lot of his proceeds from The Last Dance and other initiatives from Nike and Jumpman to Friends of the Children. Russell Wilson, NFL quarterback, supports it. His wife Sierra, a pop star and musician, supports it. So Simone Biles coming along, being the national ambassador, definitely brings influence to it. She's going to the Olympics very soon, and Friends of the Children has been on the tip of her tongue everywhere she goes. So that influence is going to trickle back down to Houston and throughout the network across the United States when it comes to Friends of the Children.
Yeah.
So we have
people using that
sports.
Influence to support organizations like that is just incredible. I love it.
Grateful for that.
Anything else that you want to share about Friends before we move on? What else?
Friends of the Children, Houston is here. I think that I'm excited to introduce us to the rest of the community. I am excited to partner with others in the community around the work of mentorship, around the work of relationship building, and elevating families and stabilizing families, reuniting families and children with their bio families and the like. And this us again doing our part, right? Working alongside folks, being a part of the entire body of service, and a part of the culture and the pride that is Houston, right? No matter what challenges we face as a city and as a community, we always bind together. If the waters can be 50 feet high, the ice can, the heat can be 120 degrees. It doesn't matter what the challenge that we face, we're doing it together. And so I'm happy to be leading an organization that's new and shining and still has its luster, right? So people can see the work that we do and come and be a part of it. And then it's ingraining in the work that is already here. Nothing else to say that we are here and we're here to serve, right? And that's it. We put children first as our number one value. We have 5 of them. None of those others really matter because if we do that first one right, the rest takes care of itself.
Yeah, well, we're in it with you, and we're glad to partner with you guys.
Blessings. Yeah, I'm happy about that.
In the last 5 minutes of our time, we typically take a little bit of a left turn and chat just a little bit about you with just 5 quick questions, kind of rapid fire. They're meant to be a little bit more lighthearted after all the heavy conversations that we just had. First one, you mentioned you're not a Texan, not a Houstonian. You're from Oklahoma. What is your favorite U.S. city to visit?
So many. Houston was my first one, right? Before I moved here, I was thinking Atlanta, LA. I have family in each of those places. And Houston, I just love the culture. I love the diversity in a lot of ways. As opportunity as a professional and for your career. There's opportunity in terms of age and demographics, right? There's diversity in terms of, your faith, and there's the recreation and the people here. I love that. I love getting to know people from different places. So Houston was my number one city, and that's why I moved here. Nice. Now, outside of here, I love all the other metro cities. Chicago is a beautiful city. I love DC. I'll be there next week for a mentor conference. So I love the hustle and bustle.
I was going to say hustle and bustle. You like to...
I like to move around.
Yeah.
But those would be my top cities, like Chicago or DC, outside of Houston.
Coming from as a small town kid, the city, you just can't get away from it.
Yeah, that's it. But I like to steal away. I love the country. I love to go to a cabin or go out there with my horses and the cattle and just be in peace. I like the pasture. So I prefer that if wherever that is and wherever that peace exists, I can be there.
Until you can get back to the city.
Until I get back to the city.
What's your go-to snack when you're taking a break?
Ooh.
What's the thing?
I like candy and I love sugar and sweets. My favorite is I love cake. I'm a cake monster. I love German chocolate cake, but any sweet, any kind.
German chocolate.
Let my dentist hear all this, but I got some cavities I need to feel right now, this minute. But I love Sour Patch. I love Starburst. I love. I'm a sweets man.
Sounds good. We talked about with Friends of the Children starting at 4 to 6. When you were 4 to 6, what did you want to be when you grew up?
Oh, baseball.
Baseball was it from that young age?
Yeah, that was the first instrument I picked up.
Sound like my youngest.
And I got right to it from hitting off the tee and, playing catch with my dad and my mother. They were all, that's how my parents met, through baseball and softball. They played baseball and softball together, co-ed, and fell in love. So I think I was bred in baseball. And so really baseball is the reason why I am where I am. It was that vehicle, that vessel that introduced me to coaches and mentors and leaders and community. It put me with a diverse group of guys that I had never met on all ends of the spectrum. And it took me around the country, right? I've gotten to meet people like the Hank Aaron's and Willie Mazes of the world. I worked for Frank Robinson. I've gotten to drive around with Jose Altuve in my little Ford Fusion, right? Like, these are people of great influence and ability that I got the chance to be with because of baseball. Yeah. And then me even made to make that pivot from sports to where I am today. I love that. I love baseball. So I wanted to be a baseball player, and that held true for the first, 24, 25 years of my life. And now I can go back and still be a part of that. When I worked at the Astros in Minute Maid Park, I know Minute Maid Park like the back of my hand. I'm talking about from the clubhouse to the top of the rooftop where it divides to, the drainage probably. I love baseball that much that, those experiences were great. Yeah, that's my home. Good. Yeah. So I wanted to be a baseball player, and at heart I still am. Yeah,
that's good. I love it. What was your favorite subject in school?
English. Really? I wasn't good at anything else, really. I had a hard time adding and multiplying numbers. I didn't think I would be an engineer, or I didn't like science. I was interested in those. I love National Geographic or Animal Planet or Discovery Channel and all those things. But English. I like to write. I think I'm a decent writer. I write a lot of poetry. I've been published in a couple of anthologies for my poetry. I've done a lot of spoken word. So English was kind of like my way of kind of writing my thoughts, my feelings, and my being on paper. I say if I die today, people are gonna have a lot of my thoughts, right? So I love literature. I love like the Maya Angelou's, the Ralph Waldo Emerson's, Transcendentalists. I love literature. Yeah, I like to read.
It's a lot you can learn from other people's writings and then just from writing yourself.
I'm from Spencer, Oklahoma, 4,000 people. What exposure do I get if it wasn't for being in the book, right? Sure. And so that really helped expose me to
good. Okay. Last one. If you could have dinner with one person, dead or alive, who would it be? It's kind of the cliche question that I just threw in there, but
I guess he may be dead and alive, depending on how you look at it, but Jesus Christ. I think that as a man, and given his history, walking this earth and giving examples of how to love other people and how to treat other people, and Jesus wasn't just a pushover either. He was, he was a sturdy person. There's a book out, I was told about it. If Jesus came to my house, or if Jesus were to visit me, it was a children's book. So basically the mindset was, if Jesus came to my house today, how would I treat him? And so for me, in this sense, I try to make my best meal. I can't cook that well. But if I had the chance to sit down with anybody of any influence, just to even just be in their presence, it would be Jesus Christ, hands down.
It's interesting what you said, and what that book is about, because I think often we think, or we've heard the kind of what would Jesus do, right? And it's kind of like used as like a little bit of a bent towards legalism, or like, if he was here, what would you be doing? What would you be hiding? What would you be trying to act like you're not? But though, how would you treat him is it's a different mindset or a different thought on how we posture ourselves towards other people. That's really interesting. That's really interesting.
You just hit the nail on the head. It is about how you treat other people. And so you can do this because he's considered, I can preach, so I don't want to preach on the podcast, but you're thinking about him being the Son of God and the most high being, the most perfect man. Of course, you're going to try. You can't fool Jesus anyway, but you would try. But other people, you probably wouldn't give that same courtesy to. And so, yes, if you would do it for Jesus, if you would entertain him in this way, if anybody comes to your home, that's how Jesus would expect you to treat them as well. So, what would Jesus do if Jesus were to visit me? How would I treat him? I want to hug him. If I'm allowed to even touch the hem of his garment, I will. Other than that, I'll be, either praising or having a good meal. And maybe he'll throw some wine in there. You just never know.
Hey, he's not opposed to wine. No way. Bread and some wine. Well, thank you so much for one, just the work that you do, for stepping into this space, for seeing the kids in this space and the families in this space. I think it starts with seeing, and then it starts with responding, or it doesn't end with responding. It just moves into responding, I guess. But thank you for seeing and for taking a step in this space and for joining kind of this collection of people who are all, like I said, linking arms. If there's anything we can do to keep supporting you, please let us know.
Absolutely. Let me just say thank you for welcoming me into this space. Journey into these other spaces and sectors hasn't always been that easy, but I love the nonprofit space because everybody has a heart and everybody wants to serve, and they are servant leaders. So I'm just happy to be joining the ranks. I feel like I'm in a class full of valedictorians. Everybody's A students. Everybody's good. Everybody's brilliant. Everybody has a heart for service. So I plan on being in this space for a very long time, and let's see what kind of work and impact we can do together.
Absolutely.
Forward. Onward and upward from here.
Yes. Thanks, Brandon.
You got it. Thank you for having me.
To those listening, we hope these conversations have inspired you to find your place along the river. And we welcome you to join us in bringing hope and renewal to the city of Houston. If you'd like more information on how to get involved, please visit riversideproject.org and submit a contact form. We'll see you next time.